Guilt is about our own responsibilities. Blame is about projection. Through blame, we cast our feelings of guilt onto others, or allow others to cast their own feelings of guilt onto us. And so the invitation through innocence is to take responsibility and ownership of only our portion. And then through also the identity of innocence and ownership of our guilt, we seek to make right. We seek to balance it out and say, okay, I made a mistake. I can learn. I can change, I can grow, and I can move forward. I am not the identity that I am in guilt. My true identity is in my innocence. For in innocence, innocence doesn't mean blameless necessarily. I know that's the general definition we have. And legalistically, that works really well for the polarity of it. But innocence is also a spiritual state in which we can face our guilt and own it through a spirit of innocence being a self-knowledge or a knowledge of ourselves and the identity of us in God. And as we consider ourselves and learn to see ourselves completely as children of God, that doesn't mean that we're blameless and pure, that we're unspoiled. It just means we have options. We can grow beyond our mistakes. There's such a strong attitude of attack in the world. It's been going on forever. It's part of the split within us. But it's been heightened so much. We want our leaders to be perfect. And when someone fails that standard, that ridiculous standard, they're cast down on the trash heap of history. And that energy is pervasive. And so where's that energy in your life? Where are you doing that to yourself? We're all doing it somewhere. This huge awakening is an opportunity for us to get really honest and really clear within ourselves. What standard, what ridiculous standard do you have that you're using to throw yourself on the midden heap of life and say, see, I'm not worth it. I don't deserve better. I can't have what I want. And all that bull crap we end up telling ourselves because we buy into a lie. And so the innocence that we're offered is the ability to have a clean slate, a bigger perspective, to step back from that mindset and say, I am more than my mistakes. And then through the grace of God, through the grace of the Spirit, I can have this perspective and see myself as more than what I've seen myself to be so far. And then we move forward. We may not know what that looks like, and that's okay. We can move forward. We are free to move forward in our innocence. Distrust. Distrust going too far is cynicism. And a cynical heart and mind are completely closed off. They are acerbic in nature, toxic, acidic, so poisoned with distrust that the world is small. Their identity is set. There are few options that are positive. The world becomes a very negative, unfulfilled place. That's the extreme. Some of the shades might just be not hearing the presence of Spirit talking in our lives, or hearing it and not trusting that we can follow it and come to any good. Maybe having trust for others, trust, faith, and hope for others, but when it comes to ourselves, we don't give ourselves permission to also have the good things. And so distrust is an extension of the first part, an extension of that guilt story. And so with the grace of trust, with the imprint and blessing of trust, we have a choice. We can choose to take that leap of faith and trust the voice, trust the guidance, trust our knowing inside. Somewhere inside of us we're being spoken to. Somewhere inside each of us is the voice of God guiding us, encouraging us, loving on us. Do we choose to hear it? Turn the volume up? Take that leap of faith. Shame and doubt silence our tongues. They silence our expression. They cause us to leave the world bereft of our brilliance. Doesn't matter the reason why. It's the outcome of the shame and the doubt that matters most. But also that we have options there too. We receive the imprint of spiritual pride and worthiness. We don't receive the imprint like a stamp of approval, like a exterior gift being bestowed upon us. Rather, this is a friend, an angel reminding us of what we already have within us. This is not a bestowment, this is a reminder. All of these are reminders. They're reminders of what's possible when we acknowledge the Spirit within us and the true nature of that Spirit. No book, no philosopher, no one else can define the nature of your spirit. Only you can discover it and then express it and live it. The world can never tell you who you are. We may be emboldened to speak up. We may realize that we have something to say, even if it challenges the world, even if it goes against the grain of everyone around us, even if it seems like the most offensive, ridiculous thing to say. If it feels right, if it feels honest, maybe it needs to be said. Maybe the filters are so clogged up with bias and misinformation and anger and fear and hate. Maybe that thing that needs to be said needs to be said. Maybe your words will be a spiritual intervention into the hearts and minds of those who are so hungry for it. Maybe they don't even know it. Or maybe they've gotten so used to being in pain, they forgot to consider a dream for a better world. And so maybe your voice speaks to their pain and reminds them of the glory that is possible when they themselves choose to step out of their pain and find their own purpose. This is where being human really is the rubber hitting the road. We're living in a very wild world, a very wild universe, where stars are burning and exploding and dying and being born all the time, where galaxies are slowly colliding into each other, where black holes are ripping huge amounts of energy bodies and masses apart constantly. And we were placed here in the middle of all of that with the intelligence and presence of mind to be co-creators in this universe. This universe mirrors you as much as it mirrors the God who made us. Your place in this universe is not small and certainly not insignificant. It's comical that we doubt it so hard. And it's also true that we can doubt it so hard. So that's part of being human that we have to accept and master. And so we're given the support to do that. Speaking of support, threat and worry, I've said it before, I'll say it again, they are the mind killer. They are a spear and a dagger between our rationality and our reptilian mind, our basic reactive reflexive self. That reflexive self is strong, powerful. If we were to have instincts, it would be them. But they're not informed instincts. Our instincts are separated from the world around us on purpose. Because we're given the free will, we're given intellect, we're given awareness. We're given the ability to rise above instinct. We're not here to be mindless automatons playing out a program. We can do that. Certainly there's some programs that are beneficial. Right? We all have cultural values that we agree on, or maybe sharply disagree on, depending on our different stances. And that's okay. The point is, we have reason for a reason. We're uplifted out of the energies of threat and worry. We're given something greater. We're given a promise. I think support maybe not is the right word for it, though it's a good word. To me, it's a promise that no matter what is going on in our lives, where we are on our journey, we have all that we need to triumph, to grow, through inspiration, just through asking for it, just through praying for it. We can have a mindset that turns our challenges from being obstacles to our progress to being launching boards from which we can create the life that we want to have. Or at least give it our best shot. So we have support. Ask for it, pray for it, and then receive it and act from it. Shoulds and should nots. Again, there's a whole lot of that happens in this world on a massive scale these days. It seems like if you put your head up, you're going to be slammed by someone shouting at someone else, someone shooting someone else. Everyone's keeping their heads down, hiding, riding it out. Maybe not a bad strategy, maybe not a great one. I guess time will tell. We'll have to make that call for ourselves, but that's the point. We have the freedom to choose how we manifest and put our energy into the world. How we do that for ourselves, the identities that we take on, the work that we take on, the challenges that we step up to, the situations we accept and work with. We have freedom. I think the implications of that are being expressed and explored in a very widespread fashion. But regardless of what anyone else may tell you, you are free. You are not here to live by someone else's standard and value and identity. You are not here to live somebody else's slogan or promise. You're not here to live somebody else's outcome. You're here to live your own. And through that, you'll be doing great things in the world. Because God's put great things in you. He's put you here to be great. Doesn't mean you'll be perhaps a rock star or a significant leader, or maybe a known person at all, except by those whom you love greatly, and those whom you serve greatly. You have the freedom to be great. You have the freedom to be who you are. And you have the freedom to figure that out for yourself, what that looks like. Heartache, betrayal, and disappointment. Plenty of that going around too. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, honestly, it'll probably get a whole lot louder. The world's going through a storm of awakening. Storms are scary. Storms uproot. Storms flood. Storms blow away. And I think we need that. I think the world needs that, but that's me. We all have within us a catharsis, a great pain to face. And there's a reflex within us when we face pain. We avoid it, we hide it. We think, if I minimize it enough, if I make it small enough, I won't have to face it and I can just keep on going. That works for a bit, little bits of relief. Eventually though, to truly move forward and blossom in the ways that our promise suggests and tells us we can be, we gotta face that stuff. That's why there's a word for it, catharsis. Catharsis is a purging of self. We face our pain, we resolve it, we love it. We step into it to understand it, but also to release all the energy that we've compressed inside of it. It's emotional energy, and there's also mental energy. And that compression restricts our physical world as well. So when we release that energy, in the moment it may feel ugly, painful, gross, and disgusting, and that's okay. We're given love for just that reason. Love is the answer. It's the greatest gift. Not because the Beatles tell us so, but because it is so. It's not a simplistic love either. It's a very complicated love. So complicated that we have dozens of words for it, for the different contexts and subtleties of it. Yet at its core, universally, there is one love. And that love comes from the love that our God has for us and for all of creation. And so through love, we can listen. We can listen to understand. We can speak to be heard. We can find compassion and come to understanding and growth. Even through the really disgusting, horrible stuff that seems so ungodly and so vile and so criminal and so horrible to look at. How could we ever look at that? Ew. Some things have to be looked at to be known. And there's some things coming out in the world that will be very challenging in that regard. Great pain has been endured by people and is being endured by people, and that can be hard to look at. And so stay in love, first with yourself. Stay connected to your God, to your Creator, whatever that looks like for you, your higher power. Stay connected. Stay nourished. Stay fed through love so that as you perceive the world and take it in all of its hideous glory, you won't be uprooted by the storm. You'll remain supple and bend in the wind. Your roots will go deep and your branches will reach high. So when the floods come, you won't be cut off. You have what it takes to prevail. And not only prevail, but thrive. And it's this connection and presence of love in our lives that keeps us open to staying in a participation role. Present, aware, awake, engaged. We all have resentment and anger in some direction in our lives, perhaps multiple. And that's okay. It's not a failure to be angry. It's not a failure to have resentment. We were given those on purpose. Those feelings let us know when we've been wronged or when we are perceiving a wrong. They're part of our conscience. They give us the fire to say, "Excuse me? What just happened?" It gives us the knowledge to say, "That absolutely does not work for me." It gives us the fire to push back and say, "Hey, that's not cool. You're out of bounds. And let me tell you why." We need that fire. The fire to challenge the world is vital. Otherwise, what's it all for? Why show up? The world needs to be challenged. We at times need to be challenged. And it's the fire and the strength of others that challenge us that help to keep us honest when we are not being so for ourselves. Honest or aware. Aware fits as well. But that we express and own our anger and resentment. We look at them and understand, what are we angry about? Who am I angry with? What is it that I resent? And what's going on for me around that? And when we ask those questions and we figure it out, then we have something to say, worth saying. But until we do that work of looking within, speaking is a very fruitless endeavor. It would be more of an attack, accusation, ridicule, tantrum throwing. And so we're given that reason, the intellect, the self-knowledge, the ability to go within to say, what's going on for me here? Let's look under the hood. I want to get clear about this so I can actually do something about it. And when we're clear, through the power of forgiveness, forgiveness isn't giving a blank check and saying, you know what, don't worry about it, it's not that bad. That's minimizing, that's bullshit. Forgiveness is real, powerful shift. It's a spiritual restoration. It's saying, these are my grievances. These are the boundaries I want. You can mend fences and relationships. You can set boundaries. But vitally, you move out of being a victim and you move back into being whole a child of God. We also offer the other person on the other end that same opportunity. Maybe they're playing the role of the perpetrator. Or maybe they themselves are acting out of being a victim. It's very possible to be both at the same time. But then we offer it to them. Whether they choose to make that shift within themselves or not, doesn't matter. We can make that shift for ourselves and stand our ground and say, this is the dignity and respect I will have for myself. And that's the standard I set in the world around me. Forgiveness is powerful. It also helps us to accept. It helps us to move on without being stuck in a moment of pain. It helps us to realize that that pain does not define who we are and what our life is going to be. And we take the next step forward. We can perceive ourselves as powerless really easily. We all have a certain hook, a certain condition. Sometimes it's always ready to step right in front of us and say, you can't do that. But we're given a message that we are powerful, no matter what we tell ourselves. That our power is ours to use. Wherever we find ourselves undermining ourselves, rejoice because you discovered a secret. And that undermining energy, oh, that's your energy. You're the authority of your life. You're the expert. You have 100% control over your own power. There's an automatic nature to us, though, that runs a story, runs a program. It's autopilot. And when we live from autopilot, we get results that come from the autopilot. What's the story going on there? And if that story is not working for us, then it's working against us. And it's just a story. We can unscript it. We write stories because we need to free our minds up to focus on different things. We can't be 1,000% focused and open all the time. That's exhausting. We need certain things to be automatic. That's how we become more efficient in life, and we get more things done, and we grow and prosper. We end up going from hunter-gatherers and agricultural societies to space-age societies. Look at what we've been able to accomplish through the ability to automate things in our lives. I don't mean robots. I mean the stories. The stories we tell ourselves to create society. It starts with the story we tell ourselves to create our identity. Who are we in the world? What is the world? What's that relationship? Am I powerful? Or am I weak? Or the mix in between? And where you find yourself weak, look at that story, what's really going on there. It's probably a willful ignorance. You don't want to look at something. You're making an excuse. It's usually what happens. You're making an excuse to be powerless so we can avoid doing something we don't want to do. Only we usually have to do that thing in order to get what we want. At some point we hit against that wonderful paradox. I can't move forward, so I do the thing I don't want to do. Okay, I'm at choice. I can choose to become a winner in the situation. I can choose to unscript my story of powerlessness and realize that I have what it takes. I may have to go and learn something. I may have to reach outside of myself, but I have what it takes to do that. And that's part of turning challenges into launch pads. Realizing that you are a rocket. You have all the creative potential of a star flowing through you, and probably more. You are a human being. You are a child of God. If that's not enough, well, I don't know what else to offer. You have to want it. Maybe that's it too. We have to want it. And if we want it, we have the power to get it. It's a matter of perseverance and wanting it enough to do what it takes to get there. And that part of that's overcoming the stories of weakness that we tell ourselves. Fear is a wonderful tool and a horrible counselor. Fear can show us the dangers that may lie ahead of us. We like that. We like that about fear. It gives us caution. It gives us pause to think and consider. So we do so responsibly, respecting the nature of ourselves, yet also respecting the nature of this universe that we're living in. If we disrespect that nature, we're going to end up sticking ourselves with it. And so fear is helpful. What we release is our irrational fears, the existential fears. There's plenty of those to go around. You can have those all day long. An existential fear is a perfect trap because things that are existential are purely theoretical. And we can make up any body of evidence to support them or not. And there's always a wonderful thing of, well, I don't know. So based on your perspective and attitude in that particular situation, what you don't know might set you free. What you don't know might end up hurting you. You don't know. So it's very telling when fear shows up. It gives us a wonderful opportunity to look at ourselves and learn from ourselves. What are you afraid of? What does that remind you of in your life? What situation is the emotional anchoring for that fear? If you follow the emotions back, they will always take you home, back to where it all began. So fear again becomes a teacher if we are willing to learn. But fear doesn't have to stop us. And we don't have to be unafraid in order to move forward and triumph. Just because we're afraid doesn't mean we're not in a position to triumph. It just comes down to, do you want it? Do you want the intention that you set for yourself today? And what do you have to do to get behind it? So that as all the energy that we've mustered here today goes in that direction, and we flow down that river, are we hanging onto the sides, resisting every way? Or are we surrendering to our intention, getting behind it and saying, I'll paddle, let's go. You can also just lay back and enjoy the ride too. There's no right or wrong. I'm just laying out the reality as I see it. It is absolutely and freely yours to do with as you please and choose. There's no obligation to buy. You are blessed. You're blessed before you woke up this morning. You're blessed before you came here and joined this call. And you'll be blessed all through the day. Not because of me or you or anything else, but because God blessed you. And so in blessing ourselves, we receive that blessing. We also have that peculiar nature of the co-creator. We have the power to bless each other as well. We have that authority. We're given that authority. We're all priests and priestesses in that way. We can bless each other. We can bless the world. That means something. It's not just words. It's not just platitudes. There's a real energetic presence and responsibility in that blessing. And so I bless you. As we ground this energy out into the world, there it goes. Here we go. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your intention. Celebrate yourself. The angels celebrate you. The angels celebrate all of us. It's we who get stuck up in the mourn and the doubt and the questioning and the struggle and the strife. And for good reason, because it's hard. Sometimes it's just hard. But hard doesn't mean defeat, and hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard is just hard. It means we're feeling it. So, if it's hard for you, feel it. Claim some time today and feel it. probably find when you do that, it becomes less hard. And so thank you so much for showing up and blessing yourselves and blessing us and blessing the world today. You are earth angels. You are children of God.